You're observing her across the room, or perhaps sitting directly across from her at dinner, and something feels different. Not obvious, not theatrical, but different. What you're witnessing are micro-signals, evolutionary remnants, that operate below the threshold of conscious awareness. These aren't the dramatic gestures of romantic comedies. They're the subtle, biological broadcasts that precede genuine attraction. Understanding these signals requires abandoning the fantasy that attraction announces itself. Clearly it doesn't. Instead, it whispers through involuntary micro-expressions, fleeting touches and behavioral shifts, so brief they barely register. Yet these moments carry more authentic information about her interest than any direct conversation ever could. Signal 1. The eyelid descent and lip separation. Watch her eyelids, not constantly. That would be strange, but notice when they drift downward slightly during conversation, accompanied by the faintest separation of her lips. This isn't fatigue or distraction. These specific micro-expressions represent biological mimicry of pleasure states. Her nervous system is rehearsing quite literally what attraction feels like. This expression appears most frequently when she's listening intently or responding to something you've said that resonates. The timing matters. If this micro-expression surfaces while you're speaking, her subconscious is signaling approval. Her body is preparing for something her mind hasn't yet fully acknowledged. Signal 2. Peripheral touch patterns. Forget hand-holding or obvious physical contact. The signals worth noting are peripheral. The brush of an ankle against yours under the table. A thigh that momentarily presses against yours while sitting. These aren't accidents, they're calculated risks. Testing your receptivity to physical proximity. These touches serve dual purposes. They gauge your response while providing her with sensory data about your presence. If she's creating these moments of contact, she's actively exploring the possibility of escalation. The casual nature is deliberate. It allows for retreat if you don't reciprocate. Signal 3. Grooming rituals in your presence. Human grooming behavior intensifies around potential mates. When she adjusts her hair, checks her appearance, or subtly corrects her posture while you're watching. She's engaged in what behavioral scientists term audience grooming. This isn't vanity, it's biological display behavior. The key distinction lies in timing and frequency. Grooming that coincides with your attention isn't coincidental. She's curating her presentation for your specific observation, signaling that your perception of her matters more than casual. Social interaction would warrant. Signal 4. Wrist vulnerability display. The inner wrist contains some of our most sensitive nerve endings and represents one of our most vulnerable anatomical points. When she exposes this area, rolling up sleeves, gesturing with palms up, or positioning her wrists visibly during conversation, she's displaying trust. Nonverbal research confirms that wrist exposure is an intimacy signal, typically reserved for individuals we consider safe. If she's consistently revealing this vulnerable area in your presence, her subconscious has categorized you as someone worthy of trust and potential physical closeness. Signal 5. Strategic microcontact. One accidental touch means nothing. Who might be coincidence? 3. Establishes a pattern, and patterns reveal intention. These micro-touches, a hand briefly on your arm during laughter, fingers that graze yours when passing objects, shoulders that bump during conversation. Create what researchers call touch escalation sequences. Each contact serves as both test and invitation. She's measuring your comfort with physical proximity, while gradually normalizing touch between you. If these moments are increasing in frequency, she's systematically reducing the physical barriers between you. Signal 6, olfactory presentation changes. Scent represents one of our most primitive attraction mechanisms. When she begins wearing stronger perfume around you, or positions herself where her scent is most noticeable, she's engaging your olfactory system deliberately. Studies on body odor dynamics reveal that women intensify scent presentation when attracted to genetically compatible partners. Pay attention to proximity patterns if she's finding excuses to be physically closer, close enough for you to notice her perfume or natural scent. She's inviting a deeper sensory connection. This behavior bypasses rational thought and targets the limbic system directly. Signal 7, micro-affirmation patterns. Vigorous nodding combined with upward glances creates what behavioral analysts categorize as engagement amplification. This isn't simple agreement with your words. It's emotional synchronization. When she nods enthusiastically while looking up at you, she's demonstrating what neuroscientists call attentional capture. This behavior indicates you've moved beyond casual social interaction into something resembling emotional investment. Her responses have become animated because your words carry weight beyond their literal meaning. Signal 8, the vocal proximity shift. When she leans closer to speak, lowering her voice to what one might call conversation for two, she's created what researchers term an acoustic intimacy zone. This isn't merely practical necessity for being heard. Mind you, it's deliberate sensory engagement, positioning herself close enough that you feel her breath and experience her presence on multiple sensory levels. By speaking more softly, she necessitates your closer attention and physical proximity. Notice the timing of these vocal proximity shifts one should observe. They typically occur during personal topics or moments of shared laughter. When emotional intimacy peaks, this behavior bypasses social conventions about appropriate distance. Whilst appearing entirely natural and necessary, the combination of reduced volume, increased proximity, and intimate content creates what psychologists call multimodal bonding experiences, a rather powerful neurological response that standard conversations simply cannot achieve. The larger framework, these signals don't operate in isolation. They cluster, creating behavioral patterns that reveal genuine interest. Versus polite social interaction, the woman displaying one or two of these behaviors might simply be friendly. The woman displaying 4 or more is communicating something entirely different. The critical understanding here is that these aren't conscious choices. They're evolutionary responses, biological systems, activating in the presence of genetic and psychological compatibility. She's not necessarily aware she's doing them, which makes them far more reliable than verbal communication. Recognition of these patterns serves a practical purpose. It prevents misinterpretation of genuine signals, while helping you avoid reading interest into mere politeness. Understanding the difference protects both parties from uncomfortable misunderstandings. If these patterns sound familiar from your recent interactions, You're probably not imagining things. Trust what you're observing. But remember, recognition is just the first step. What happens next determines whether these micro-signals develop into something meaningful or fade into missed opportunities.